I wanted to maybe deep dive a little bit of that and get into the concept of 7 pillars that you like to talk about of ways that people can, get their autoimmune disease into remission. But before we go there, if you don't mind, can you tell us why you ended up in functional medicine versus just the conventional kind of medicine system?
Yes. So, like many doctors, I have my own personal story and my own personal journey with low thyroid and Hashimoto's. And I was really frustrated with the results and the information I was getting from traditional medicine. And, I had doctors tell me nothing was wrong with me. I've had doctors say, all of your symptoms are just normal or completely ignore what I actually went in there for. And, I've had doctors tell me that you'd never get pregnant naturally. So whenever you're ready, come back for fertility treatment. And so for me, I was like, you know what? I am not going to live my life like that. That is not what my life is going to be. And so that's what really led me down this whole functional medicine. Now, I was doing this before it was ever called functional medicine, right? So I was always into looking at what is the root cause, right? I really struggled with weight. I struggled with hormonal imbalances, and I was always asking why. And in conventional medicine, that isn't how they're trained nor how the system is set up to understand why is something happening. And this is not good nor bad. It is just what it is and how the system is set up, right? So it is a disease drug therapy model. So they're running labs to diagnose the disease, and then once they have the name of the disease, they can prescribe the treatment plan. So it would be a drug, a surgery, essentially a drug or a surgery. But where most of us are falling in the cracks is we don't have a disease, but we have a whole list of symptoms. And when there is no disease to name, they start medicating the symptoms just to essentially shut down the symptoms. And that's really your body's way of communicating with you that something is not quite right. So anyway, I was able to really figure it out for myself, and I lost the weight. I started feeling so much better. I got pregnant easily with 2 kids. I had them naturally and healthily. So I think it's, for me, I'm on the journey. It's not like I figured it out and I don't have to continue to work on my health, because I think a lot of people think that once you figure it out and you lose the weight, then you don't have to worry about it again. But health is life, right? And health is you're on this journey where you're always trying to optimize health through all the different stages of your life.
Yeah, I love that. What a great explanation. Can you remind us also, like how you see people today and what that would be like, what the contrast would be like if somebody went to just a general practitioner who is practicing in that sick care model?
Yeah. So this is what typically happens. So let's say you have classic symptoms of low thyroid. You can't lose weight. Your hair's falling out. You might have some depression, anxiety. You're not sleeping well at night. You've got brain fog. You go to the doctor, and of course, most of us Google all these symptoms before we go to the doctor these days. So I was dealing with it before Dr. Google. So I didn't have a resource. So now we Google and we go to the doctor and we say, hey, I think I have low thyroid. Can you check my thyroid? And the doctor's going to be like, absolutely. It sounds like you have low thyroid. So most doctors will run one, maybe 2 or 3 tests to check if you have low thyroid. And typically they would run a TSH. Now, if you're lucky, they might run a TSH with a thyroid panel, which means they'll do a T4, they'll do a T3 uptake, and then they'll do a free thyroxine index. And all they're really looking at is a TSH. And if the TSH is high, that means you have low thyroid, and they are going to put you on some kind of thyroid medication, and they're going to recheck that TSH in 6 months to a year to make sure that your dosage is right. So then they're going to keep doing it at that interval and until they have your TSH normalized. Now, once your TSH is normal within that laboratory range, then they're going to say everything is great with your thyroid. But if you still have all of those symptoms, like let's say some symptoms got better, but not all of the symptoms got better, maybe some even got worse. They're going to say, your thyroid looks fine. It's not your thyroid. And then they're going to start prescribing antidepressants or anti anxiety medications or sleeping medications. Or they tell you, well, you just need to eat less and exercise more. So that's kind of the story that these ladies get told over and over and over again. And so, the contrast between what we do is not just saying, okay, you've got low thyroid, but why do you have low thyroid? Is it an autoimmune condition? Is it that you have a high toxic load? Do you have a blood sugar problem? Do you have mold toxins and heavy metal toxins? Do you have food sensitivities? What does your mitochondrial health look like? What do your inflammation markers look like? So really digging deep as we possibly need to dig to understand what is going on at a root cause level. How do we create balance back in the body so that the symptoms go away or become resolved and you reverse those disease processes?
Got it. Is this a good time to introduce the 7 pillars of how to kind of
Yes.
step away from some of this stuff? Okay, let's
Yeah,
do that. Tell us how
absolutely.
you started to think about put getting these pillars together, and even like what order to put them in.
Yeah, so the order is imperative because you can't really skip the order because as we go through these pillars, you're going to notice that one pillar builds upon the other pillars. And what's interesting is I just was treating patients. I've been treating patients for like 23 years now. And I had other doctors asking me to teach them what it was that I was doing. And so then I had a system and I had a formula, but I didn't know that I did until somebody asked me to teach them. So I'm like, okay, what is it that I do? And how do I teach this to other people? And how do I also teach my patients what it is that I am doing so that they understand? Because knowledge is power. And when you have some understanding and you have knowledge, then it gives you a different framework to have different thoughts, you can introduce different habits and have a different experience. So the first pillar is that you have to have a constant pursuit of your goals. So we actually have to write our goals down about what is it that's important to us. So for example, like if someone just constantly says, I don't feel good, it's very hard to know if you're making progress on that because it's a very big, ambiguous statement. And if we just always say, I don't feel good, then it's going to continue to perpetuate that unless we're very specific about what it is that we're dealing with, what our goal is. So a good goal would be I would like to release 10 pounds, right? Or I would like to sleep through the night, fall asleep, stay asleep. Or I want to increase energy. And we have to put a measurement on that. So if you'd say, okay, right now, maybe I'm a 4 out of 10, but my goal is to be an 8 out of 10. So that's the first pillar. But I think what's really important is that these are not New Year's resolutions. This is not like, I just want to exercise more, I want to eat better. This is a very specific, measurable goal. And then the other part of that is you have to have a motivation for why you want to achieve the goal, like a deep seated motivation, not just so I can feel good in my clothes, but it is so that I prevent diabetes or I reverse diabetes, or I don't want to have the complications of diabetes, or I want to live longer. I want to live for me, I'm living to 120. So I want to do that with an amazing quality of life. So I have to pay attention to where I'm at today because the choices we make today are indicating where we're going to be at in the next 5 to 10 years. Or maybe you want to play on the floor with your grandkids, or maybe you want to be active and not in a wheelchair. Maybe you don't want to have pain. Like we have to think about what kind of future we're creating and what is our motivation. Because if you don't have the motivation, you have that other little voice in your head that says, oh, a little bit won't hurt. Or today's not that big of a deal, I can start tomorrow. And so we really have to have those motivations front and center to keep us moving forward on the goal.